Present.
Mrs. Dardag.
Present. Okay, approval of the minutes for July 25th. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Is there any corrections, additions, or anything? No?
I don't
All
recall
right.
anything.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 You. You too.
Me too. I want to be first.
I, and you. Oh. All right. Public participation. Do we have anyone in the room who would like to speak? No? Okay. Let's move on to new business. We have 2 new leases that are going to be discussed. I guess we give that to Lisa? Eric.
Well, let's start off with me here.
Okay.
And thank you, Barbara, for getting it started here. We have in our midst Leasing Lisa. This is Lisa Ross. We've been calling the Leasing Lisa because she's been just taken over really quickly from a lot of the duties that Joe was handling, as you know, for several years. And part of that was dealing with the tenants, and we have a multitude of tenants, and she has just been handling not only the routine administrative duties that have to go on every day, but also some additional developments that we've been seeing at the airport. Just, I don't know, renewed interest, I guess, in some businesses out at the airport. And so Lisa has stepped up to the plate, and she's here with me today to help out with any detailed questions that you might have on the leases. We have 2, and I think we're talking about 4A at this point. Item 4A is the lease agreement with the City of Vero Beach and Davis Development Company. I think each of you should have a copy of that. I have to apologize. The link that we sent out from the city to all of you had, I think, 189 pages. And that was because the attachment C to this lease is the Phase 1 analysis from the environmental company that, has to be done on each site when we initiate the lease. And it included all the data, all the environmental data from the scientists and everything. And so when you looked at it, you probably said, holy cow, 189 leases. In the future, I think we'll just send you the executive summary, if that's okay. The entire thing will be on file, of course, as always, as at the city clerk's office. But I think the way that it's working out with that link, it's hard to click on it, and you pull up the whole thing. It's hard to just print out an individual page or the pages you want unless you are fairly computer literate. That's what I'm guessing. Is that pretty much? Did you have any issues with that? Any of you on the pulling it up? I guess we have computer literate folks.
There's 3 selections: print page, print pages 1 through whatever,
right,
or print all. It's not
right. Okay. Well, Buck figured it out.
I didn't have that on my computer.
Whatever. I guess people have different software. But as I sent it out an email, too, if there was any question, if you wanted me to print out anything and bring them, we're always happy to do that to the meeting or in advance of the meeting. Lisa went ahead and made copies of all of the leases, so you have them in front of you so you can ask any questions. Like I said, we did not print out, though, the entire environmental study and an entire attachment B, which is the standard lease phraseology that goes with every lease. So I'm going to just briefly go over the cover lease with Davis Development Company, and then if you all have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And we also have the chief pilot from Davis Development Company here with us if there's any questions about the aircraft or the operation of the company, and be willing to get up and answer any questions as well. The leasehold that we're talking about is at Parcel 3, which is at the north ramp, Airport North, northeastern portion of the airport that used to be the airport operations facility. I think you all recall back when we completed the new operations facility that I was saying we're going to do our best to try to release the former airport operations facility and turn it into a revenue-producing use. And thanks to Lisa's hard work and I guess maybe a little bit of the uptick in the economy, we have found that we think is a really good tenant to take over that facility. That building that we're talking about was a hangar used by Gulf and Western many years ago, and it's always been a hangar. We just appropriated it when Gulf and Western left many years ago. We appropriated it for use as a operations facility. which means we use it to store our heavy equipment for mowing grass and for maintenance of the airfield, a front-end loader for moving gravel and asphalt and that kind of thing. And we used it for many years like that. But it was getting to the point where it really needed some repair. And we were growing our operation facility, so we built the new facility, relocated the staff there, and then now have been successful. It looks like if the Airport Commission and City Council find agreement, we'll be able to lease this facility to a private firm, Davis Development, which will use it for storage of an aircraft. My understanding is the tenant plans to use the existing hangar for storage of a Citation 10 corporate jet and miscellaneous aircraft accoutrements that go along with that that are needed for the aircraft. They also plan to do at least $300,000 worth of redevelopment on the hangar, extend the eastern wall out to accommodate a larger hangar door to accommodate the Citation, about 20 feet out, and also redo the whole exterior of the building, replacing any panels that are needed, repainting, do any kind of redevelopment that's needed to make it appropriate for storage of a corporate jet aircraft. And again, we can ask our guest if he wanted to say anything about that. Shannon, you can correct me anytime if I misstate something. The rent that's proposed for this is $1,800 per month, plus any taxes and assessments that are legally imposed on a tenant. It's for a term of 5 years initially, with five-year options. It's a total of 30-year lease then for the facility. Rent is adjusted every year by the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, as we have in all of our leases. And also, we've included in there that we would adjust the rent at every option period by doing an appraisal of the land value of the site, just to make sure that our rental rates are staying current with fair market value as time goes on. As you know, they're fairly low right now, and there is some concern that maybe the CPI adjustment would not adjust the rent enough to keep pace with real estate if it starts to tick up again. So we did this with a true-up provision every 5 years or every option period. In addition, the tenant has agreed to pay 5 cents per gallon fuel flowage fee, because one of the improvements that they're going to make on the site is to add a fuel farm, a fuel facility. And that facility will handle at least 5,000 gallons, is that correct? 5,000 gallons of jet fuel in order to be used only for the tenant. They're not going to sell fuel. They're just using it for their own purposes. However, airport policy requires all tenants that pump fuel to pay 5 cents per gallon. So that's in addition to the rental on the facility. Other than that, their primary, most of the standard agreements are in there, standard provisions that we normally have, including Attachment B. There are several special provisions as you go through. You'll see them in the lease under, I think it's Section 7, that will take precedence over any of those that might be in Attachment B. But for the most part, it's a pretty straightforward lease, where staff, having gone over it, thinks that it's a good situation for us. It's a building that is definitely in need of repair. This will save the city and the airport from putting any funding into renovation of the hangar before we could lease it. The tenant has agreed to do that renovation on their own at their own expense, and that is one of the reasons that we agreed that we would not do anything but charge them just the flat appraised value, which at this point is actually pretty low with the way the market conditions are. So they're coming in at a good time. The lease was drafted by the airport staff with a lot of assistance from the city attorney's office. I have to say, Peggy Line has just done an amazing job. They're down to 2 attorneys for the entire city, and they're working overtime to help us. And she was very responsive to Lisa and I as working on that. And so the lease has been approved as to legal sufficiency by the city attorney's office at this point. It's also been signed by the tenant, and they have had their attorney, who isn't in the audience right now, but he was able to review it as well. I think their headquarters is in Atlanta, and so that's where the attorney is based. He wasn't able to make it down to the meeting. The company, just briefly, I did mention, is a very well-respected company, does a lot of development in the southeast of the country. not just the southeast of Florida, but southeast of the country, and they're based out of Atlanta. Do a lot of high-end rental facilities, residential, and we found their financials to be extremely well established, and also we have a letter from the bank president which gives them a strong financial status. We don't, at least at the staff level, don't have any concerns that they would be able to do what they say they're going to do. And so overall, staff is willing to recommend approval, and we would ask that the Airport Commission make any comments, suggestions, and then recommend approval to go before the City Council.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
I do. The company, according to their website, looks like a very strong company based out of Stockbridge, Georgia. Why Vero Beach?
Mr. Davis, the owner of the
Shannon, could you come on up and...
And if you'll just state your name for the record, too, please.
I'm Shannon Barton.
At the podium. We got to make it official, Shannon.
Okay, sorry. My name is Shannon Barton. I'm the chief pilot of the company. I've worked for Mr. Davis about 10 years. That's when we first purchased our first aircraft that we own, or that we owned at the time. Mr. Davis actually lives in Florida, and he is a Vero Beach resident. He's got a place over at Seaview on the ocean over there. And he built the home back down here, I guess, close to 15 years ago. So he thoroughly enjoys this area, and that's the reason why we're locating here.
We're glad to have him.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it very much, and I know he does as well. So
That's great. I do have one question, Eric. With regard to the insurance requirements, we always require the $1 million CSL policy in accordance with the Insurance Services Office forms that are articulated in the lease. We had an incident in one of the T hangars where an individual's plane caught on fire. We found out he did not have insurance. What is your office or the city doing to maintain compliance with the insurance certificates?
It's a constant battle. Just in general, I don't expect...
We're going to leave Charlie Sullivan out of this.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things where, for one thing, the insurance requirements, not the $1 million limit, but the insurance requirements of the risk management companies and the carriers and the agents, they change periodically. And Lisa could probably go into a lot more detail on this, but it's every year we're having to make sure that the latest and greatest provisions are kept up with. And, it's sometimes when a certificate is issued to the City of Vero Beach, even with the endorsement, it's somewhat possible that the insurance policy could be canceled, and we might not find out for 30 to 60 days. We're supposed to find out right away, but usually there's a time frame before we even know. Now, this company, I don't think there'll be a problem, of course.
I don't think they want their Citation 10 to burn up.
Yeah. My guess is the investment that they're going to have in their aircraft is going to be sufficient for us. As far as the building, the property insurance, and the liability insurance, we just try to keep up with that as best we can. Did that answer your question, or did I
That answered my question.
cover too much?
Real quick, the fuel storage is obviously going to be above ground, and we've already looked into there's no wells or anything nearby. Okay, good.
Yeah, they have to be outside of a 500-foot radius from the city water wells, and there's one location on their property just in the corner where they can put this, but it's right up next to the ramp area, and it's actually a perfect location for their fuel farm. So it fits within all the environmental regulations, but that's a good question, and the tenant will be required when they put in the facility to make sure that fuel farm meets all the latest federal, state, and local requirements for a fuel farm, including above-ground storage.
That doesn't conflict with any agreements you have with the Holman family, does it?
No.
Any other comments or questions? Would we move to recommend that this move forward to City Council?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Should we take a formal vote on this?
Yes.
Mr. Embry?
I agree.
Mr. Vosell?
Aye.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mrs. Darndack?
Yes. Thank you. We hope you'll stay through your renewal periods,
Absolutely.
too.
thank you.
Next meeting, we're going to comment on your landings.
I was going to try and hold you hostage for a ride, but
Well, I didn't bring the pen today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
The process after this will be to go to City Council, hopefully on the October 15th City Council meeting, and then if it's approved there, the lease will take effect November 1st. I think I neglected to mention that.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Eric, I think we have another lease to consider.
Yes, ma'am. Item 4B. A little bit simpler, and this is a relatively short-term lease, but still long enough that it needs to go before the Airport Commission and the City Council. It's a renewal of an existing lease that we have at this point in the terminal building. It's Flightline Group, otherwise known as Southeast Piper, which if you go into the terminal building, you'll see the signs on the door says Southeast Piper. The actual corporation name is Flightline Group. They're based out of Tallahassee. And they're aircraft sales and distributorship that sells Piper aircraft. They've been operating out of the airport terminal building for several years. The current lease is just a renewal of that with a 1-year term and a 1-year option, which makes it the 2-year overall obligation, which means we need to go to City Council for approval. If it was a 1-year lease or less, we can get City Manager approval. But since it is 2 years with the option, we went ahead and put it on the agenda to make sure everybody could take a look, see if there's any questions. There's really been nothing that we changed, I don't think, on this lease, so that's anything unusual. It's the same standard rent that they've been paying all along, as adjusted by the CPI. I mean, it's the current latest rent that we have that we charge for airport terminal use, which, by the way, is well above market. It's in the neighborhood of $18, $19 a square foot, sometimes up to $22 a square foot for some of the locations because we can get it, because it's a supply and demand kind of thing. There's very limited terminal space, but they're very happy to be there. It's a great location for them. They've kept the space up, immaculate. It looks really good shape. So we recommend that we approve the lease and move forward.
Any questions or comments? We have a motion to move this to City Council with approval.
So moved.
Second.
Want to call it on for us?
Mr. Embry?
Yes.
Mr. Vosell?
Aye.
Mr. Hodge?
Yes.
Mrs. Derndeck?
Yes. Thank you. That would move us to old business, which we don't have anything currently listed under there. Next would be chairman's matters. The one thing I wanted to bring up that was not on the agenda is every year at this time we're to provide the City Council with an annual report of our commission. In the past, I've worked with Eric on this. It's really just to recap what we've done during the year. If there isn't any problem with it, I would like to just move forward and do that again with Eric rather than to try and get into all of the ins and outs of what we did during the year with the commission, unless somebody has a problem with that.
Zero problem.
It's really a fun exercise to do. So
Negative perspiration is the other.
Right. And if any of you, I do have a copy of the one from last year. Generally, what I've done is a cover sheet that just describes what we've discussed. And then I always ask Eric to do an in-depth report about what his staff has done, because we don't see all of the things that go on. We're minorly involved with some of the things. You know, we're aware of grants and things like that, but I want the City Council to know the full extent of everything that's gone on. So if that's all right, we'll kind of proceed with that same format.
And I can send the members a copy of it once it's done, so you have it for your records.
Okay, that would be great. That would be great. All right, that would be it for Chairman's Matters, Airport Director's Matters.
I just have a couple. The Vero Beach Air Show, which is why I was almost late, because we just have a terminal building full of volunteers right now, is this weekend. And I have some passes here to pass down for all of you to hopefully come out and enjoy the show. Let me just pass these out as a group here. I think would be best. We've been working on this for actually about 2 years now, and I say we, I mean a large number of people have been working on this. It was a brainchild, I would say, of the local exchange clubs back in the 90s when it was originally put on.
Oh, there's two.
through the recession that happened and the some of the changes up at the airport, and because the air show at the time was not making money, it was canceled and has now been 18 years later brought back to life. And is everybody getting their passes?
We're gabbing here. We can't figure out.
Each one has a guest pass
systems
attached, so
we
it
didn't
should be
realize
two.
they had our names on them until just now.
This was a test.
I happened to grab mine by mistake.
Miserably.
Okay, Gary, here's yours.
This is a mess.
I make it as hard as possible. That's my goal.
So
we started with
there's two, right?
Okay, there are two
Okay,
there.
good.
Okay.
Should have made me
No, what's
laugh.
that one? Oh, that's
I should
missing
just
from
hand
somebody else.
Do you have a guest pass?
I did.
Okay. So
Eric, we need to talk offline.
Okay. Do I get your name spelled wrong? Just send them back if they're not yours. Actually, hope that everybody would be here. We're a little bit shorter.
Sonic thing.
Okay,
attendance.
let's begin again.
All right. So now that we have our passes,
Oh, whose is this?
We don't all have them.
There's an extra guest pass.
And some of these people are pilots.
Scary thought.
Playing
now I'm going to try this. See what happens. Here comes some more flyers for you. Here. This should be easy. Everybody gets
As long
one.
as our name's not on them.
And these also for your cars.
Actually, I have a couple already.
The air show is, like I said, a long time coming, about 18 years since we had our last air show, and this one has a lot of professionals working together. Whether they're air show professionals or not, many of them are just local business people that are doing this in their spare time, a lot of volunteers putting it on. All of the proceeds go back to the local charities in town, the 3 exchange clubs and the Veterans Council. And so we're really happy to see this happen, but it's been a lot of work in coming. We've been keeping an eye on those 2 weather troughs on both sides of the Florida, the low pressure troughs, to hopefully they kind of stay off to the side. And right now the weather prediction is actually 0% chance of rain, but a lot of fog on Saturday, and then 20 or 30% chance on Sunday. So normal Florida weather as far as I'm concerned. I think we'll be okay. But we're looking for a good turnout here. We have some tremendous performers lined up. Patty Wagstaff is a well-known performer that I think everybody has seen her fly. She's just fantastic. We've got the Geico Sky Typers, and we've got a glider pilot who's actually going to fly without an engine. They'll be towed up to about 5,000 feet, released, and then he'll do a whole aerobatics performance on the wind. That's always fun to watch. There's also some ground and static displays that will be interesting to see. The U.S. Navy UDT SEAL Museum brought some things, or will be bringing some things. Here it is, a little early. But should be a lot of fun, and we're hoping for a good turnout. The goal, obviously, is to give back to the community, to make sure that the exchange clubs are able to continue their mission in prevention of child abuse, and also the veterans who are in need in our community receive some financial assistance if necessary. And the Veterans Council has been great in providing support for this. They're going to actually be handling a lot of the parking, making sure that people park where they're supposed to go, and all the logistics that go along with that. Tickets are online, actually. The whole online system has worked out very well. It's being handled by Eventbrite, which is a company that does this kind of thing all the time. So if anyone wants to get a ticket, you can go to veroairshow.com. That's been put out as best as we can on the radio and got lots of media support. Again, we've had a lot of community support for this, a lot of pro bono media, from folks like Jim Davis and others, and WTTB and WAXE, Sally Dillon over at Idea Garden. A lot of people have really helped out to put this together. And so we hope that it comes out a huge success. We'll be able to do it again and again. One of the things that's coming up next is the air show in May, which is May 10th and 11th. We are on the Blue Angels schedule for that, the U.S. Navy Blue Angel team. We all know it's sequestration dependent, and with the news these days, it gets, it's so much in the gray, nobody really knows what's going to happen. But if you go to the Blue Angel website, you will see Vero Beach, Florida, on the schedule for the Blue Angels, May 10th and 11th of 2014. So we'll see how that goes. We're hopeful that it'll happen. If we can get the Blue Angels here in May, it'll be the first time ever that the Blue Angels have flown not only out of Vero, but out of the whole Treasure Coast. They haven't even been at the Stewart Show, and the Stewart Show is fairly large and very successful. And I might add that the people in Stewart Air Show have been very helpful with us in getting this started. I find that to be true in aviation a lot. People are very willing to help out, and the Stewart folks are not only are they helping out with advice, but they're helping out with people and volunteers that are going to actually help with the flight line at our show, and then turn around and go back and do it on their show in November. So it's all been good. A lot of good people working hard. We've got glitches. We're probably going to have glitches during the weekend, but we're going to work our way through them. We've got a really good communication system, and you all are welcome to come out and enjoy it. Don't forget there is the show starts at 9. I don't think I mentioned that. The gates open at 9. The air show starts at noon. So the gates will open at 9 o'clock for everybody. And you all are welcome to come a little early. Come up to my office if you like to, and you can see what we're doing there with the command post. We'll have radio set up there. We'll have our battalion chief. We'll have the Department of Emergency Services and Vero Beach Police Department and Sheriff's Department will all be participating and making sure everything is safe for the whole weekend. And I think we're good to go. I mean, there's always something. And like I said, I almost didn't get here in time because people were like, can we do this? Can we do this on the way out the terminal? But we've got a lot of volunteers that are really, really helping to put this together. And I do appreciate all of your support on this and throughout the whole thing. And as well as with the city manager and the city council have all been terrific in trying to make this happen. And we hope it's a good shot in the arm for the community.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Sunday's schedule as compared to Saturday's schedule be the same timing of events, the same
Yes.
static displays?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I say
Timing,
yes.
9 a.m., gates open?
Not both days, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 5. Air show starts noon. There'll be an opening ceremony both days at noon, including the American flag will come down via parachute with an aircraft doing circles around the American flag as it comes down. And we have a national anthem being sung by a local singer, Tanya Ortega. I think some of you might know her. She's an outstanding singer, and she's going to sing it a cappella with no music.
Oh, that'll be great.
And as the American flag comes down, that'll kick off the air show event both days. I always have to say it's all weather dependent, as you know. I mean, things get changed. However, all of the performers that have signed up for the show have performed in many different weather conditions all over the country. And so they're very familiar. Florida, for them, is an easy show. I mean, we don't have any kind of cold weather or icing conditions or anything like that they have to worry about. We've got some clouds. We could have some clouds. We could have a little rain. But most of them work around that very well. And that could, though, adjust the schedule somewhat to make sure that we work with how they want to fly. Other than that, though, it's going to be fairly standard, 9 to 5, and the air show itself starts at noon both days. I should say, for those that may be watching on the television, the best place to access for general admission is off 43rd Avenue, off of 43rd Avenue, and you go right into the parking off of there. So if you're coming in from the west, from the south or from the north, you would come in on 43rd Avenue and enter the airport at that point. And actually, people will be parking on one of our closed runways. We're closing runway 4 in order to accommodate the parking. VIP parking, if you pay for the $5 parking, is south of the terminal building in the grass area south of the terminal.
So runway from the T hangars, runway 4 is going to be closed?
You can still get out, but not during the air show itself.
No, I mean, I'm talking about walking. Is taxiway Alpha going to be closed?
Alpha will be a non-movement area, but will still be usable. So, which means you can taxi an aircraft out if you need to get out prior to.
I was thinking about parking at the hangar and then walking over.
And then walking over. Sure, you can walk over. We'll keep an eye out for you.
I'll get a strobe light.
Yeah. In your head.
Yeah, get a checkered flag.
It should be a lot of fun. I'm sure there'll be a lot of local airport tenants out there, just that are already there that'll be looking and enjoying the show. And you'll start to see the thing on Friday. Actually, we have a practice show Friday tomorrow. I know this is rebroadcast, but for those watching it live, it's tomorrow, Friday. We'll have a practice show, and that'll actually get some attention going. I think you'll actually see some aircraft flying in the sky. Weather looks pretty good overall. We'll see how that goes.
Are they going to close the field tomorrow for the practice?
Yes. We have a TFR over the airport Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 12 to 5.
Okay.
So with the airspace closed, the airport is pretty much useless except as an air show platform. So we will be using the only people that should be flying during the closure from 12 to 5 those 3 days is performers. Before that, though, like I said, if an aircraft wanted to come and go up to noon, the airport will be available, other than runway 4. NOTAMs have been put out. They're all over the place.
I'm sure.
It's a long list. So, and we have an FAA inspector, too, coming by. So that, as they always do for air shows. I don't know if any of you know Bob Jex. He's a former Navy guy. So other than that, he's a great guy. No,
Pot calling the kettle. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
And you said we have a special air traffic controller who comes in to
Yep.
do the show, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Other than the performer, he's the only one that's going to get paid for any of it. He's a professional, they call air boss, former air traffic controller who will serve as the air traffic control with radio and binoculars during the show. Now we have a narrator, professional narrator too. I think there is a small fee for him. Everybody else is volunteers, including the air show director, who has volunteered her time to do this on her own. And she is the reason we have some of these performers, because of her connections with previous air shows and people that she knows. And so it's going to be first time in 18 years, and looks like a lot of fun.
Sounds good. What else do you have for us?
Capital projects, I just wanted to briefly mention, because I want everybody up to speed on that, but we have the Runway 422 project coming up. That's important because we've got to do it between the two air shows, the one we're doing this weekend and the one in May. We have to make sure that once we get everybody off, we get in there, rehab the Runway 422, the crosswind runway, and then get it done in time for the Blue Angel show in May. So the good news on there is we did receive, prior to the end of the fiscal year, we received all of the federal funding that we had been requesting. And the mayor has executed that grant. We've also just recently at the recent city council meeting finally got all the last minute state funding approved. So all the federal and state grant funding is encumbered, and we have it budgeted to begin this project probably right after the air show. I think you'll probably see some crews out there right around early November, late October, early November, to finish that project, to start that project. And then we have the airport master plan, same thing. All the funding came through for that. It was kind of iffy there for a while because, with what's going on in Washington, we were not even sure we were actually going to see those grants come through. But the city council was kind enough and agreed to approve the grant should it be received. We did then receive it, and we do have the master plan funded, both state and federal funds. So both of those projects are kicking off concurrently. Other than that, the fencing project is done. A lot of the other capital projects are closing out, if not already done. And the other large number of activity we've got going is leasing. Lisa's been very busy, been working overtime, been trying to keep up with the activity level we have with several interested parties, and hopefully I'll be bringing some of those back to you in the near future. Might even have to ask for a special call meeting, Barbara, if we can do that, depending on the needs of the tenants. The next meeting, otherwise, I think is around February, and we try to work around our scheduled meetings, but it might be necessary to actually call one just to make sure that we get those leases done when we need to.
And when you said we have the funding, it's in the bank?
Oh, it's encumbered. It means it's electronic out there somewhere.
Okay.
That when we have to do the work first, then we ask for reimbursement for these grants. And we have to show them receipts that we've actually paid for what we're doing. And then they reimburse us. So it's about a 30-day or more lag usually in getting the money from the federal or state government once we actually do the work. But they've never failed in sending us the money once we have wiring. It's all electronic, right from the federal or state government right to the city's bank. And that happens, like I said, after we accomplish the work. So we have money budgeted in the airport revenues to pay up front, and then we get reimbursed later. And we've always been reimbursed to date.
Okay, is that everything? Members' matters? Anybody have anything they'd like to bring up?
I have one question. Where does the commission stand on alternate members?
We have two.
Or as, pardon me?
We have two.
We still have the two.
Yes, sir.
Nobody's moving. Okay, thank you.
Is that Bill and Bob?
Yes, Bill Jordan and Mary Wood.
Mary, yes.
Neither of those were able to make it to this meeting, but we have the 5 regulars, and so we have a full complement at this point. 7 is the number that we usually have. Two alternates.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, it looks like our next meeting date is scheduled for February 27th of 2014, and as Eric said, if something comes up that would require us to get together earlier for lease issues, because we don't want to delay any potential leasing that might be going on, and or if we hear anything back from the FAA about their land use inspection, that depending on what goes on with that, if that comes in, which it's been 2.5 years or something, but otherwise we'll just schedule the February 27th. Are we on board for that, Jerry?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, you are.
we're all already set up. And if there's anybody have a lot of problems with that, I think we had scheduled that even last meeting.
We did.
Yeah, that's been scheduled for a while.
Right. So, okay, we'll continue with that. That being all the business.
Well, we have one more thing, I think.
I'm sorry.
Vice Mayor Carroll.
I didn't see you come up to the.
Thank you. I just had a couple questions. I came in a few minutes late. I apologize, and I probably missed a public comment, but I did want to ask a couple questions of the commission as well as the airport director. With the government shutdown, will that be affecting any of the incoming flights for the air show?
Well, yes, I say yes in a short answer. We had proposed an F-18 demo team, the Navy F-18 demo team, which is 2 F-18 jets, and also the U.S. Army Golden Knights parachute team. Both of those are probably not going to, I say probably almost 99% sure at this point. We were hoping that was going to still happen here, hope against hope, but it looks like that's not going to happen now. So all of the show performers that we'll see this weekend will be private performers that do this on their own. It's a business, and a lot of them are also airline pilots, that kind of a thing.
Okay.
So no military. Then we have the U.S. Navy UDT SEAL Museum bringing some things up. That's a nonprofit, things.
Right.
But as far as the actual military, we don't think we'll see them. We're still hoping for the May show. So.
Okay. The other question I had, the commission had discussed in the past about leasing and the concerns with some of the aged properties on the airport. I have been in communication with a member in the community who is working with some individuals who may be interested in leasing the old Armory site. And I understand that building is very aged and needs significant code enhancements to come up to the current code. Have there been any discussions in terms of how the city may or may not work with a private entity that wishes to rent one of these buildings that does need significant code enhancement?
We have had staff discussions. We haven't had too many airport commission discussions on that, but we are seeing just in the last month or two pretty large increase in interest in that building as well as others. We have a few interested parties, and I think we're talking about Building 96. When you say the old Armory, that's Building 96, the old, the 24,000 square foot concrete building that used to be next to the railroad line right along there, right next to Allied Roofing. That's what we're talking about. We've had several interested parties. We actually had so many issues with that building that we were looking at. We had an engineer and an architect take a look at what it was going to cost to bring that up to speed. Some of the parties that have been coming to the table lately, and just talking with staff now, we haven't actually got to the level of the airport commissioner or any higher, but they are looking at putting in development of their own and spending the money themselves, which is great for us. And then, that money then would be offset by the rent.
Okay.
So we have a couple of letters of intent, and Lisa has been trying to keep all of these going at the same time while we're working on the air show. But right after the air show, we're going to hit that pretty hard.
Great. Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. We really need the additional jobs in our community, and to take these sites that are currently not being utilized and to turn them into funds coming into the airport can only help our city. We also have our economic development chair with the chamber here, and I was hoping she could share with us what's going on with the enterprise zone, because there has been some concern at the statewide level that program would sunset. So if you don't mind, Helene, giving us an update on that.
Good morning. For the record, Helene Castleton. I'm the Economic Development Director with the Indian River County Chamber of Commerce. The other hat I wear is that of Enterprise Zone Coordinator for the Vero Beach Indian River County Enterprise Zone. And Vice Mayor Carroll was correct in saying that the program is under review. The Enterprise Zone program is under review right now. It officially would not sunset until 2015. However, the state agencies, OPAGA, and I couldn't tell you what that stands for, but it's a governmental agency at the state. They're doing a lot of analysis of the state program right now. As an Enterprise Zone Coordinator, I've already received some inquiries, a survey as to its utilization, and what we're doing here at the local level is reaching out to our legislative delegation to make sure that that program stays in place. And we've also now reached out to other Enterprise Zone coordinators in Florida. I believe there's about 65 Enterprise Zones active right now. We've reached out to the Enterprise Zone coordinators in Florida and sharing our strategic plan, if you will, as to what we're doing with our local legislators. I've put together a spreadsheet showing since the inception of our enterprise zone, which is October of 2005, how much has actually been invested in the enterprise zone from private business in terms of equipment being purchased, in terms of rehabbing facilities or construction of facilities. And I think that sends a pretty powerful message, I think, to our local legislative delegation, and I shared that information with the other Enterprise Zone coordinators, encouraging them to do the same. We're also reaching out to our sister chambers of commerce in Florida, those that have enterprise zones in their communities, to let them know what we're doing as well. So, it's kind of a grassroots effort. Our Enterprise Zone Development Agency, of which Councilmember Kramer sits on that as your representative, they've been very supportive of what we've been doing. So what we've been told from the state coordinator, is that it's really not too early to start making that push because we really don't want to see that program go away. It's been in existence since the mid-'80s. It's had quite a few changes along the way. But I think it would really send a very negative message out to the world if Florida did away with an economic development tool like the Enterprise Zone program. So we're doing what we can to make sure it stays in place. And, if there's some changes along the way, that's good too. But Enterprise Florida, which is our statewide economic development organization, they too have it on their agenda. So just kind of keep you up to date. And there is, for a relatively young enterprise zone, we've had quite a bit of utilization over the years.
Question.
I know what you're going to...
At the last Airport Commission meeting, Mr. Menja brought this up under Airport Directors Matters. And being familiar with the Enterprise Zone, I asked if we could publicize it more by having you all link your website to perhaps the city and perhaps the city and the airport having a link back to your website. Has anything been done with that?
We're working on trying to have our own website, and separate from the city website, but still linked to it. Right now, we're part of the city's overall website as one of the departments. And we've already purchased the domain names using GoDaddy.com, and we've purchased Vero, I think it was VeroBeachAirport.com or .org. And so, we're starting the groundwork to get this done. If we only had some IT person right on staff, we'd have it done. But we don't. So we're working through this as we can, time permitting. But yes, we are making progress, and we've already kind of laid out a first website. And when we have that all done, We're going to then tie in with the chamber and our tenants as well. All our business tenants will have links and things like that, and air show and all of it.
Well, I would encourage you and our vice mayor to get together and see if we could link you to the city and the city to you, so that people could become aware of what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. That wouldn't be a problem at all. We can do that, certainly.
You have somebody.
I just wanted to answer.
She sneaks in there.
Buck, I also serve on the Tourism Council for the Indian River County, and that exact proposition was brought to the Tourism Council, and probably 6-8 months ago, we did link the Vero Beach and the Chamber of Commerce's websites, so someone can go on the city and go up to the top and click tourism and find the hotels that are on the chamber and find other information on the chamber. So we have done that link, but from an economic development standpoint, that's a great idea.
I would like to point out, too, that I would like to see the program continued through our master planning process, because one of the things we're doing with the master plan is a business plan for the airport, so that it makes sense where we're growing and how we want to grow it, so that then we can target different sections of the airport for development. You know, it might be industrial on the north and west side, more retail, commercial, hotel, accommodation type things on Aviation Boulevard, so that we can tie in with things like the Vero Beach.
And the other thing we need to be cognizant of, and that the upswell of community support right now for the historic Dodgertown Museum, and what will go on with that. I have actually had discussions with individuals in the community that are interested in some type of a hotel structure in that area, baseball tours, all different type of things. And I think that as we work together over the next couple of years on the master plan, those are great components to add to that. And I have worked very closely with the chamber over the years, and that will definitely bring a component as we go through the public meetings on the master plan.
I see that as being important, since the airport is so much property of the city of Vero Beach, and it's got so much available developable property, that we want to make sure that we go in the proper direction. If all of a sudden we have a factory out in front of the airport terminal, that's severely going to limit somebody wanting to build a hotel there. So that's what I'm hoping that the master plan will help, through the community input, help develop what we want to see this whole, Aviation Boulevard become, and the north side and 43rd Avenue. How do we want this all to develop, and then be able to take advantage of the enterprise zone? And target it. Then we can target people and say, look what we've got available, and here's your incentives. But right now it's just kind of a hodgepodge that's out there with, without a real direction. So I'm hoping the master plan is going to.
I think that's a copyrighted term.
Hodgepodge.
Oh, sorry about that. That's an inside joke.
It's the Arthur.
and also, it's so important as we move forward with the master plan site is that we recognize the fact that the city as an entity has not put over the past many years a significant push onto economic development. And right now, as our entire city and our businesses are coming out of what happened in the last 5 or 6 years, we need to take advantage of this, because businesses are starting to move into the county. She's seen more and more individuals coming to her as the representative for the entire economic development for the county and saying, what do you got and where can I go, and where are the cities going to be appreciative of bringing in new businesses, and whether it be industrial or whether it be customer service oriented businesses. And there's a lot we can offer throughout our enterprise zone, throughout the property that was the historic airport. There's a lot of area to the north where additional flight related industries could go in. There's a lot of building along the airport avenue. So we've got some significant advantages, but we as a city need to make the definitive decision that, yes, we are going to promote economic development to bring businesses in, to improve jobs and to improve the livelihood of our community.
And I think it'll go a long ways to help supporting the airport, because we don't know what the funding might be. Grants might start to dry up and everything, and we still have to maintain the airport. So it's a significant consideration for the airport to see us grow as well
Exactly,
for
because
the city.
All the funds have to stay within
Yeah.
the airport budget. So any additional funding that comes in at the airport would stay within the airport. But if we look at the surrounding area as well, whereas it may be right outside the enterprise zone,
Right.
it is still going to help our city.
Right.
So I appreciate
Great.
all your support on that. Thank you.
If I may. I was just reminded of one of the other conversations that we've had at the Enterprise Zone Development Agency recently is the expansion of the Enterprise Zone, because currently we are allowed up to 10 square miles. It's based on population. We're currently utilizing only 4.7 miles of what we can. So there's been discussion. Commissioner Tim Zork has been involved with those, Commissioner Bob Solari, who's our liaison from the County Commission. So we've had some of those discussions. The city of Fellsmere, we have now learned through census research, is now eligible to apply as an enterprise zone. But what we need to do is change the enabling legislation that gave us our initial enterprise zone back in 2005. So the city of Fellsmere is making a pitch to be a part of our enterprise zone. So I think they could make a good story for that. I'm not sure how the timing is with the program sunsetting in 2015, but we're supportive of that, and the Enterprise Zone Development Agency is supportive of that as well.
Any talk about, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but the free trade zone where it's...
Oh, yes.
Because that could certainly aid in bringing in some sort of manufacturer who might be importing parts and
Right.
So I don't know if that's ever been considered. I know St. Lucie County has a small development down off of the feeder road. It's
Right.
about a 100-acre industrial park.
Right.
Not Tradition. St. Lucie West has a huge industrial park that's
Right.
the
We
free trade zone or whatever.
We
they call
had
it.
been in discussions. It was actually starting earlier this year with the Port Canaveral Foreign Trade Zone Commission, and they were actually encouraging us to be a part of their foreign trade zone because you can go within, I think it's a 60-mile radius. So the county actually secured a consultant who's very familiar with the Port Canaveral Foreign Trade Zone, and the consultant did a little bit of research. As it turns out, the charter for the Port Canaveral Port Authority doesn't let them go outside of the Brevard County jurisdiction. So they would need to change their charter in order to allow Indian River County be a part of theirs. So, we've certainly encouraged them to do so. Many years ago, Eric and I actually went down to Fort Pierce to one of their meetings. It was kind of a lukewarm reception, I would say, because at that point they didn't really have any companies utilizing the foreign trade zone benefits at that time. But maybe it's time to, have that conversation again and see if we can't, be a part of their foreign trade zone. Because you're right, that's another tool we can use to promote Indian River County. And
I know a lot of manufacturers are
Right.
their actual business location is a foreign trade zone just because they import products and they don't want to pay duty on it until they've assembled it and shipped it off site. So
Exactly.
if that's any kind of incentive for a company to come in, might be worth looking into.
Right. So yeah.
Can you explain to the public what the difference is between the two zones? Just enterprise zone.
Oh, sure, because they both, that could be a little confusing. The Foreign Trade Zone program is actually a federal program. It's a national program that allows a company located in that area, that designated area, to bring goods into their facility, and technically it hasn't yet touched U.S. soil. Physically, of course, it has, but they're not charged any duties until it leaves that foreign trade zone area and enters the U.S. market. If it never enters the U.S. market and is reassembled or repackaged or manufactured and leaves the zone and goes out of country, they're never assessed any duties. So that's one of the benefits. Also, if a product comes into a foreign trade zone that is damaged, they can just send it back to the shipper and they don't have to apply for a refund on those duties that they paid. So the Enterprise Zone program, on the other hand, is a state program, and that allows certain tax credits, tax refunds for businesses that are located within an enterprise zone. refunds, sales tax refunds on building materials, on equipment that is purchased. They can apply for sales tax credits or corporate tax credits if they create a new job and hire a resident of the enterprise zone. So that's a statewide program. Like I say, that's been in existence since the mid-'80s. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments?
After all that, we haven't forgot about the air show or anything, have we? 'Cause that's still this weekend.
Air show. Okay. Anybody else? Thank you for coming in and going over that with us. All right. I guess we're to the adjournment. Meeting over.
So moved.
There we go.